get, no, I didn't. Okay. Amy, did you get one of those?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, Jamie, I don't have one.
I can share. Here, take mine. I'm good, I know.
I'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can have it. Jack, how are you?
Pretty good, yeah.
Good.
Yes, we did. Any word from our, no?
No. You can't find
Right. Give him a minute.
I haven't seen him around of late.
I saw him the other day, he said he didn't think he was gonna come.
Oh.
Well then.
Top of the hour, I'll call the meeting to order. Let's go from there. We all set downstairs? Okay. Boy, that was a fast meeting. Well done. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Nash Strubik, Chairman of the Park and Recreation Commission. With us tonight, Jack Gardner and Rich Schur, co-commissioners. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's February 19th, 2015 at 6 o'clock. With beginning approval of the agenda as it's been prepared for this evening. If there are no objections. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to ask for approval of the minutes, but I was not at that meeting, so if either of you have reviewed it.
Motion to approve?
Second.
So approved. Hi, Keith.
There he is.
Good evening.
Thank you.
We have a nice list of new business this evening, and our first guest will be Linda Hoey.
Thank you. I'm
Please
here-
come up and join us. That way our microphones will catch you.
Thank you for having us and putting us on your agenda.
Welcome.
I'm representing A Safe Place, and our annual fundraiser starting last year was an event called Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, which is guys walking in high-heel shoes for approximately a mile in order to raise money and awareness of our mission. And so last year we started and ended at Children's Beach, and it was a very successful event, and we're looking to do it again this year. So we've changed the route of the walkway, but I'm not sure that that involves you because it's not, this is more a police matter, I believe.
Yes, you're absolutely right
Yeah.
about that.
I just thought you might want to know what the plan was.
What is your new route?
Well, last year we walked around Grant Point, but we thought we'd get a lot more visibility if we walked around town. So the route is to go from Children's Beach down Harbor View, turn towards the yacht club, and go to Broad Street, up Broad, cross Center, down Main, and it'll all be on the sidewalks, not on the street. Down Main, and then back on, is it South Water or North Water? I get them confused, past.
So the route you just mentioned is counter to the traffic flow.
No, it's with the traffic. Did I
You
say
said
up?
up Broad and
I meant the other way.
Okay.
The little arrows
Yes,
the right way.
okay.
I have
That
trouble with
would've
rights
just-
and lefts.
That's all right.
So, the time would be, if we could start our setup around 9 o'clock, we'll start our registration at 10. The walk will start at 10:30, and it usually, last year, after half an hour, everybody was back. And then we're not serving lunch, which we did last year. We're going to have coffee and donuts for the walkers before they start, and plenty of water. And we'll be done. That'll give us, we said 12:30, that'll give us adequate time to clean everything up.
How many people did you have last year?
We had about 60 walkers last
And
year.
how many do you expect this year?
We hope to have a few more.
How much of the space at Children's Beach did you use?
Not much, actually. We may use a little more of the bandstand this year than we did last and take advantage of that space and walk the guys across. And we had registration tables. We didn't use any of the actual beach. We were on the lawn,
Mhm.
basically. And we had tables set up for food, which we won't need as much of this time, so.
Do we have Saturday activities, morning activities, yoga, and anything like that going on in the bandstand?
Not in June.
It's the
This
public
is
show
Sunday.
that starts in July.
Okay.
That's what I checked to see what
And
day
this
it
is
was.
Sunday, not Saturday.
28th, okay, yeah. Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Terrific.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in. Oh, actually, one quick question. You say we will require the use of amplifying equipment.
Yeah, last year you were nice enough to loan us the microphone and the speakers that were in the little shed.
Do we have any?
Take care of that, so
It's all set? That's
that's
not a
all
problem?
set. I can work with Linda on that again.
Okay.
Great,
Okay?
thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good luck with getting your out changed.
Thank you. No, good luck to my husband.
Our second guest this evening is from the Nantucket Wine Festival, and it's Mary Hallahan.
Hello, thank
Hi,
you for having
welcome.
me.
Awesome.
So, I'm a physician with the festival. I'm the culinary manager, and been done the festival about 8 years. This will be my third year returning with Children's Beach as a culinary tent manager there. After 2 years of successful programming, we're asking to do similar programming this year on Children's Beach. To provide an outline, some of our events are a little bit different. We are looking to do 2 tents this year, one that remains a culinary tent focusing on local exhibitors, family-friendly events, chef demos, and then a second tent dedicated strictly just to the seminar portion of our event.
This is the third season?
This is the third season, well, it's the 19th season of the festival.
Right,
It's the
but-
third season that we'll have the Children's Beach tent.
The first season was a focus, Children's Beach was a focus on high school culinary.
Yeah, so part
How
of
has
the...
it transitioned sort of away from that, or how
So
is
it's
it
actually
still part?
expanded. So the culinary tent has hosted 3 signature events, and those have continued each year. So they have Marketplace, Breakfast on the Harbor, and we'll do this again, and the Junior Top Chef competition. So that still focuses on the Nantucket High School, the Culinary Arts program, brings in, Boston College students, the CIA, other local culinary and hospitality programs, and then the proceeds. It's a competition, but the proceeds go back to the Culinary Arts School, the high school program. So that will be the same this year. So the students will have a competition as well. We moved that competition to the seminar tent, but still on Children's Beach.
I know that there's been discussion over the years about wine festival and the service of alcohol at Children's Beach during this. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that. How can you be more specific about how that's being controlled or what your plans are?
Well, I think the main focus with having a second tent dedicated to the seminars, that it keeps it in the seminar tent. It's mainly focused on the educational portion of it. It's food and wine pairings. It's not meant to be just going in and getting a glass of wine. It is either tasting or pairing size pours. And I think it's focusing on how we pair food and wine. This year we have a butchering, seminar. So I think as much as there is, a piece of it that's, the wine, the tasting, and we bring in these wineries, I think it's equal focus on the educational and, what we're offering people to learn about.
Mary, is that any different than year 1 or year 2? Or is some of those seminars been pretty consistent?
So some of the seminars are consistent. We are adding, we're looking to do some more seminars just because they have been so successful. And it, allows us to, again, offer more sort of topics. But yeah, I think with the seminar tent last year, we had 4 seminars. This year we'd have approximately 8 food and wine seminars, and 2 that would be strictly educational. Like we have a knife sponsor this year who wants to do a knife demo. And that's just a knife skills. It would be in a seminar tent because that would be the easiest setup. It would be set up classroom style. We wouldn't have to, flip it as much. But yeah, we've done the food and wine pairings for the past 2 years.
What time is this night event?
So there's a knife event.
Yeah.
So that would be like a morning seminar, like a 9 or 10 a.m.
okay,
time
that's
slot.
9.
Yeah, I've got 2 educational ones. Those aren't specified because it's pending sponsorship.
The 2 tents take up the same amount of space as the 1 tent did before?
So I just talked to Kat in Nantucket Tents yesterday. So she said it's additional 20 by 20 space. So the footprint's a little different. I did bring an aerial Google map view if you want to look at it. So there's a couple of different options we can go with. Sorry, I didn't include that in the package. But so basically the culinary tent would be a little bit longer this year, and the seminar tent would be much smaller and square. So it's a little bit more tent footage, but the same. It's just kind of a different mixture between the 2 tents.
Last year, at one time, there was free, a section that was without having to pay kind of thing.
So the Junior Top Chef is a suggested $10 donation, or everyone's welcome to come in. The proceeds this year will go to Nantucket, the food bank, food pantry. And then Breakfast on the Harbor and Culinary Marketplace are both priced at $35, so it's meant to be reasonable. They're 3 to 4 hour sessions. People can come in and out. They can also buy an all-day pass. Those are non-alcohol events at the culinary tent. It's really focused on the food, the community. We have a lot of local artists that come and exhibit. So that's what that's meant to be. It's meant to be, part of the wine festival that's not focused on the wine. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, and it just has to do with, frankly, it has to do with not just this particular location, but other town properties. Is there any limitation or restriction on alcohol being served through permits and approvals on any of the town beaches, Children's Beach, et cetera? On books, on paper, not an issue?
I can't speak to anything outside our purview.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the town requires permits for weddings and receptions, and I'm sure alcohol is served at those events as well.
So nothing unique to Children's Beach then?
Usually on town property, they don't allow alcohol. You need a special permit from the Board of Selectmen if you're going to
I'm thinking,
have alcohol.
yeah, just 1 second. I'm thinking just of all the beach events where people need permits anyway. Who owns the beaches? Are they town beaches? Are they public beaches?
It's
Correct.
a public beach the town owns, right? The town.
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, Amy Baxter, the town events coordinator, is here. She can
That'd be
answer any
great.
questions.
Yes,
Okay.
I do have that. As far as policies, I mean, we're going through and really updating those as far as what the specific policy is. As far as this event is concerned, they have actually already gone through and gotten temporary pouring permits signed off for children's speech from police,
Great.
fire, all of that. So those have been gone through. I'm going to review it again on Tuesday at the events work group meeting, just to make sure we have all the details out and that it's done. So as far as this is concerned, it's been signed off on.
Okay.
The
Great.
alcohol part has, because we have a town
Yes.
bylaw that says no
I-
alcohol on town property.
I know, so yes, that is an exception, but.
That's what?
It is an exception, I know that is in there. As far as if you need to get a waiver for that, or this happened last year. You know, what happened with that, I don't know, I wasn't here doing that last year, but all the departments have signed off on it as far as a temporary pouring permit for this location. And it's
Okay,
specific to
but
the
it-
size that they're serving, they're not serving a full.
Right,
size
and from the very
sample,
beginning, it's
small
always
sample.
been
Yeah. It's meant to be
presented
a-
as a tasting. I mean, we're not, we're saying alcohol just because it's part of a bylaw.
Right.
Yeah.
We certainly understand that the symbiotic relationship of what you're putting together.
As far as police and like that signing off on, they're signing off on your numbers and stuff like that. They aren't signing off for the alcohol. That's
Well,
why
that's
they
what,
They are.
that's what.
They're signing off for the
Temporary
alcohol.
pouring, yeah, because you have to do that for these types of events, but yeah, this is something to discuss probably further.
Didn't know they
At
could do
some
that.
point, but I don't think we would allow a party with full-service alcohol bar. It's looked at as somewhat of an education, different type of service, but I understand where you're coming from on that.
I think with that being a caveat, Jack's point, and it was
Yeah.
something that I know each of us thought about beforehand and have thought about when people have asked for permission to host these events on our properties. We have said no, but there's always been kind of, well, how do we get around this? And
Yeah.
it began as the culinary venue. It's the kids, and we're pairing things with them, and they're only going to be 30 people maximum, and it's going to be fenced around, and it's one tent. And then it kind of morphs into something a little bit more and more and more and more each year. And Jack's concern, and it's a very valid one, I'll be interested to see how it plays out, is how permission is granted and how exceptions are created,
Setting precedent.
and setting the precedent for that. The events has certainly carried its weight. It's a wonderful event. That's not what we are discussing at all.
Sure, no.
We are simply looking at giving permission within our guidelines for any alcohol service or properties that are under our, not management, but just our say, to a certain degree. But with that being said, I think the motion can be made to support what you're trying to do. I don't know how we put a little asterisk by it if the town has made an exception. It goes beyond our decision.
Right.
We can approve what you're trying to do. I think it's great.
Okay.
And I think if someone would like to make a motion, we can move forward with that.
Second that.
I move.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed. There we go.
Okay.
I hope, Amy, maybe you'll get back to us with
Yeah, no,
the
it's-
specifics of the
Yes.
exception.
Yeah, it
Because
is
it's
something
happening
that-
at a different, at 30,000
Yeah.
feet.
It's something we need to discuss, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we're jumping to this.
You guys skip me out of it.
Well, I have two number twos, so.
You did? Oh, didn't see that.
How are you?
I'm good.
All right. Welcome. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Do you want to come sit
Hey,
over
how
here
are
for
you
a
guys?
bit?
No. For the record, Jamie Rainey for the Nantucket Triathlon. Excuse my missing front tooth. I'm having a little work done.
He's very Tiger Woods of you.
Yeah, well, this was from the Muse, 1991. So, and now we're fixing it. So, we've actually went through, as you guys may know, this is one of those events that draws a significant amount of scrutiny every year. And the permitting process has been streamlined somewhat for us because this is going to be our 7th year doing the race. We've had our coordinated meetings with the town department heads, and in those meetings, we proposed, in addition to our standard races, which are Saturday morning and Sunday morning, July 18th and 19th this year, the Saturday race being a sprint distance race, which is the shorter version of a triathlon with about a third of a mile swim, a 13, 14-mile bike, and then a 3.5-mile run. Sunday being the Olympic distance race, which is longer, has less people in it, to add a kids race to the tail end of the sprint race on Saturday morning. And it was thought, after the permits essentially had been approved, that we should come to Park and Rec and talk about the kids piece of it. It's not really a new event from my perspective. It's sort of an add-on to the existing Saturday race. But what we've seen is when we have these, it's a very family-oriented event that we've seen from our athletes, and they bring their kids down and everybody cheers each other on. So we're seeing a fairly high level of interest from the athletes who are signing up for something for the kids to be a part of too. They see mom and dad race. They're kind of into this active lifestyle type of thing. And wouldn't it be great if we had a race that everybody could kind of stick around at the end and watch? So we proposed, you may know the Nantucket Triathlon Club, which is not affiliated directly with the race, although we do support them, has for the last couple of years done an event at the Westmore Club, sort of stylized as a kids race. But in discussions with them about it, it's not an ideal venue for them. They run on grass, it's slippery, they try to stay on property at Westmore when they do it. It doesn't really lend itself to sort of a formalized race. And, you know, every time you have athletes with kids, they want to do it like mom and dad does it. They want to be on the road, they want to have people cheer them on, they want to be part of that sort of vibe. So we proposed a kids race for Saturday. I'll give you guys copies of the event plan just so you can see what is proposed. Oh, you may have it. Okay, you got it?
We do have it, yes.
All right. So essentially, the sprint race, we have permits, and we've had this every year, to keep Bathing Beach Road closed until noon on Saturday and Sunday. And that was originally thought to be needed to be able to break down the race, get the finish line truss off the road, get the barricading moved, and allow it to be reopened for the beach to open on Saturday and Sunday mornings. We've gotten so good at or efficient, I should say, at the setup and breakdown now that the last couple of years, have been off Bathing Beach Road with it reopened by like 10:30 in the morning on Saturday. So we've been super conscious of that, and that's largely part of, we have the same crew that we use every year. Everybody knows what their role is, and we're able to move pretty quickly to make sure that the impact on the public's use of the property is minimized. So the proposal is to start the kids race at about 10 o'clock, and we may actually move that up. My experience is that the sprint race tends to be more or less over, except for a few stragglers, by about 9:30. We do awards at 9:30. So we may be able to push that 10 o'clock start time for the kids race back a little bit. But as you can see, we basically have a 100-yard swim, about a 1.5-mile bike, and a half-mile run. The only impact, there's no real different impact down at Jetties other than, you know, they're going to be in the water until 10:15, 10:30. Then they'll be completely off the beach and on the road. We've asked the road closure on North Beach Street to pull back from Easton to East Lincoln, so that we can open up Easton to the White Elephant and all that kind of stuff. And that way the kids would head down North Beach, turn left on East Lincoln, wind their way through the middle roads of, come back on Hulbert, and then come back. Obviously, with a 100-yard swim, a 1.5-mile bike, and a half-mile run, we think the entire race would probably be over within about an hour. And of course, we're guessing a little bit, but as we've always said, we have lots of volunteers on course. Obviously, the police are at the intersections. If there are a few stragglers, it doesn't really affect our ability to open up Bathing Beach and close down a running lane for the kids to be able to finish at the finish truss.
Where's the bike race going to go?
So the bike course is, that's really the bike course is down to East Lincoln,
Right.
cut over, get onto Walsh, cut over, and then back over to Hulbert,
Right.
and then back to Jetties. That's the bike, 1.5 miles.
Is that a mile and a half?
Yeah, because you do a little bit of twisting and turning.
Right.
I mean, the goal with the kids is not to put them on a straightaway and have them go as fast as they can.
Right,
You kind of
yeah.
want to slow them down a little bit. The half-mile run, you cut over on Charles, then get onto Walsh through the little dirt road there, extension,
right.
and then back over to Hulbert. So you basically just truncate the the
Right.
bike leg down.
Sure.
And that allows you to pull back even further on the road closures. You guys may remember that, because of the issues with Nantucket Road being closed, we always are pulling back the closures as we close off the race so that we can reopen and reopen and reopen as we go. So we put a limit on the kids race of 300 kids. I don't know that we'll get that first year out. We're not pushing it super hard because I kind of want to, it's sort of how I did the event. I kind of wanted to develop organically and not try to drive numbers because it's an add-on. We don't know how it's going to go, and I want to make sure that the timing is such that we're super conscious of getting the beach reopened and jetties reopened as quickly as we can. So I guess what I would say is this is a trial run for this year, much like the triathlon was when it started, and there'll be bumps and bruises to work out along the way, as we always do. But I think we've got a good handle on it. I think we would definitely be out of Bathing Beach Road with it reopened to traffic by 12 o'clock. I'd like to say earlier, and I think we will do earlier, but that's what the permit says anyway, and we've always been an hour and a half earlier than that. And that's always my goal, is to be earlier than what the permit allows, because it tends to make people more happy. The other benefit of the kids race is it does allow it. We've raised, so far, the sprint race is just about sold out. The Olympic distance race, the numbers are running about equal to last year. I think we have about 200 and maybe 225 signed up for the Olympic distance race. But in terms of just donations that we've got from athletes signing up, we've already gotten over $12,000 towards the scholarship fund, which is more than we got all of last year from the athletes signing up, and we haven't sold the race out yet. So I'm super gratified about that. We gave, we're up to $135,000 or $140,000 we've given. So we're hoping to, we've got a couple heavy hitters that I'm bracing up to try to match some big numbers and really hit it home. As you guys know, I don't take home any money from the race, so I put all the proceeds to the scholarship fund. And then I think the kids race, to take some of that and be able to put it also there, I think would also be helpful. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We've beaten this thing around for actually a couple of years about whether we could make it work and how to make it work. And I think the only way to really see if it works is to give it a shot and not push the numbers too hard. And then obviously if there's some disaster about road reopenings and things like that, then obviously we'd go back to the drawing board and see whether it makes sense to do, or to do it as a separate event on another weekend or whatever.
Well, you're keeping it right down in that area. I think this should work.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing the swim right out front in the shallow water. It's going to be low tide that day, so it's almost too low really, but for the kids it's fine. The age ranges go from 6 to 14 for the kids races. The 6 to 8-year-olds do a shorter swim. They do about 50 yards, so it's really just kind of splashing through. And then the kids who are 8 to 14 do the longer event. But we've had kids as young as 13 do the sprint race with the adults, which you can do under USAT rules. You can do 13 and up. But, I just think that it's one of those things where my whole goal from this event, as you guys probably know and hear me wax on about this year after year, is it's one of the very few athletically oriented events that's non-alcohol based. It's really motivational for people. As you can see on our footnotes, we've been selected as one of 4 national races by USAT to be a para-triathlete qualifying race. So we're expecting as many as a couple of dozen wounded or disabled vets or people that have other disabilities, missing limbs or other things, to come and compete to qualify for the national events that USAT runs for para-athletes. And that's it's pretty amazing to be in that kind of category, because seeing some of those people race some of our wounded warrior types is pretty, it gives you goosebumps to watch those guys go out with missing limbs and do this stuff, and it really motivates people. And for the kids to be around that, I think, is even more rewarding for not only the disabled athletes, but for the kids to see that and, take home that lesson. So I think the kids piece makes sense in terms of what I've always thought the event to be. It also gives me a chance to go into the schools and help recruit a little bit and say, look, you guys got an event that you can do. It's your event. It's a Nantucket-based thing. Start training. Come out and do it,
Or don't even worry about training. Just come out and do it.
Or just come out and do it, right.
These are kids.
Right.
They
Right.
run and
Right.
they ride and they swim.
Right.
Anyway.
That's right.
And you
Just
give
put
them
all
a
together.
little certificate of
They get their little medal.
completion
Yep. They get a medal like everybody else. They get to cross the finish line with their arms up. and all that. So
Absolutely.
so anyway, that's the goal. Like I said, I want it to grow kind of organically and see how it goes. We'd put it out to our database to let the athletes know it's available. We got to do some work once we get through the selectmen. Obviously, we've got to go to the selectmen first. So we haven't heard. This is a change to the permit, so we haven't heard the questions that I may get from the board of selectmen. Maybe they might shoot the whole thing down. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
I was going to ask if the seasonal nature of it is still an issue.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we get, I think I've sort of, as it says in the permit, I do a pretty good, I try to do a great job of reach out. Mostly the Nantucket people have been the reach out people that have the biggest beef with the races because of the closures on Nantucket Road. We do involve them in the process. I do solicit their information. I give them all the dates and details so they can get it out on their lists, all their people. And they've kind of, I think, accepted it a little bit. Like a lot of people, once it kind of gets into the groove and they know what the deal is, it's less stressful because you just know what to avoid and when to avoid it. Doesn't mean that we don't have issues. We certainly still do. People who don't know, even though there's an electronic road sign going for 2 weeks telling you it's coming. But I think that down in that area, like Jack said, it's kind of focused in that area and much less intrusive.
I think the complaints or the conflict you get are the folks coming over for a vacation. They don't even know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're not told by any of their
Yeah.
agents that they're
Well,
in the
and we
house.
reach out and we.
And it's just a day and it's a couple hours.
Yep, and that's how I've always approached it. And obviously, we field the complaints and we talk to people and we do our best sales pitch every time we get someone on the phone who's got a problem to let them. I mean, I gotta have given the same speech to people a million times. Why it's this time of year? Why it's this course? I mean, Nash will remember this took 2 years to get through Park and Rec when we first started, and Jack will too. And we were, I think everybody was rightly pessimistic that an event this size could settle into the schedule and be something that's positive. But
It was very helpful that it starts earlier in the day than
Right.
it originally started off.
right.
Is the use of the tennis courts, does that interfere at all with, I mean, that's you use the tennis courts until about 11 o'clock on both Saturday and Sunday.
Right. Well, the tennis courts are closed completely on Saturday into Sunday because there are 1,000 bikes in there.
Got it.
So we pay for that closure,
Got it.
and we pay for the parking lot, and then the permit fees have been raised dramatically, which we also pay. I mean, again, because this is not a profit-making exercise. I don't mind paying whoever needs to be paid in order to make the event happen. I'm not really, as long as I can, anything that I have to spend that doesn't go to the scholarship fund is a bummer, but everybody who's involved knows that. So people have been pretty helpful about that.
I have no other questions.
Jamie, I just have one question.
Sure.
I think it's a fantastic idea and it's a great event. And I'm also very familiar with the banter on the island about road closures
Right.
and things. So, but our purview really has less to do about what street you're on. And so you need to go back, I assume. So you need to get other approvals as it relates to the safety, lifeguard oversight, road use, and
Yep.
et cetera.
Right.
So our purview is really Jenny's Beach.
Yep.
How does this event affect the hours of operation of your event as it currently exists?
It doesn't at Jetties
Right.
at all.
I mean, as I'm reading through it, it really, because your other race, you still have your
That's right.
your slower participants are
That's
still
right.
finishing
Yeah.
while this event is taking
That's
place
right.
anyway, right?
I mean, if you've been down there when this race happens, so when the slower participants, we're in constant communication with the police who will say, you got 8 guys left on Nantucket Road, even though the road's reopened already. Well, we don't care if there's just 8 people. It's when there's 500 people on Nantucket Road that you can't have cars on it. But, bikes are allowed to be on the road, and if there's a few of them, it's not a big deal, particularly early in the morning. The road closure for Bathing Beach, which is really the limitation issue on the use of the property from Park and Rec's perspective, has always been a 12 o'clock permit. So we've never been beyond 12 o'clock and opening that road, and we've always been early.
And this doesn't affect
it doesn't affect that. And we are rolled up and gone, and the only, I think, impact that we see is the tent breakdown in the proper parking lot typically goes beyond 12 because Andy Grennan shows up when he shows up to take it down. But we've been able to accommodate the extra parking and things like that before they were using the electric company property down there, even while the event was set up. We make a lane so they can go use the upper parking lot. And obviously, we talked to Marshall about all of this when we're doing it, and we make Saturday night, which was the night we register for Sunday. There's still parking available up there for people to using his restaurant. And he's come around obviously quite a bit because he gets a fairly significant benefit from having 2,000 or 3,000 people down there Saturday and Sunday just for this. So,
Well, thank you. That's
I'll make a
welcome.
motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted. Let's hope it goes well.
It will. You've been working on this too long.
I am. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Let us jump forward and Kara, bring you. You kind of. I just want to. I don't want to take too much of your time. I want to hear you talk about summer playgrounds. That's what I want to hear.
Playgrounds, we have the contract ready to go. We are working with the school. They're installing a playground at the elementary school at the same time that we're going to be doing Children's Beach. So we've created a synergy where we've purchased this from the same vendor and they're installing it at the same time. What helps us is that they have a place for these people to stay when they're here to install it. So we're going to remove ours and theirs, and in exchange, they're going to be able to stay at the schoolhouse and while they're doing both play sets. It's scheduled for April. It should be, the contract should officially be on the selectmen's agenda at their next meeting for signature. So that looks like it's going to be accomplished. The concession stand, we did put out bids and take qualifications from a number of architects. And we moved forward with one architect that had a proposal that we liked quite a bit. Unfortunately, in working with him, we decided that he was non-responsive. So we have cut him loose, and now we're going to the second. So that process is taking a little bit longer. And as we had said, we weren't going to get it done for this season anyway. It was going to be next season. You, Rich, had asked about the National Recreation Professionals Association. There is login information. I have not gotten, Denise is out on medical leave for another week, and I'll get that information, get that to you so that those emails, I forward a couple of emails from the Recreation Association, that you'll be able to log on for the chat groups and information and so forth. The last question I have for you is the lacrosse camp Fog Lax has not paid us for the summertime. So I emailed them and said, you know, your agreement says 15% of your revenues. And they said, well, we didn't net anything, so we don't owe you anything. And I just wanted, and apparently from what I can tell from prior records, they didn't pay anything the year before either.
How many kids do they have?
They haven't shared that with me yet.
And how much they charge the kids?
Yeah, exactly. And I
It's a pretty robust camp.
Yeah.
I don't know what the numbers are. I sat in the planning meeting with you on scheduling with soccer. I mean, they have quite a bit of activities.
So what I would like to tell them, that it's not their profits, that it's
It's the gross.
their...
It's the gross,
Not the
right.
net.
Okay.
It's gross revenues.
And I
Not
haven't seen any
correct.
fundraising by this group, have you?
I have not.
Yeah.
And this is an off-island outfit. Yeah, I'd say we cut them loose
Okay.
because there's enough stuff going on here
So we don't need that.
locally with the camps and things. We don't. These people come in making money off us, and then
That was
turn
the
around
impression I
not
had,
paying,
and I just wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one.
not paying us.
Well, I will tell them that they're going to have to pay us on their gross revenues,
Right.
but I'll tell them that we're booked, that we don't need to have them.
Right.
Right, and they can start by getting themselves on next year's list by paying for last year,
2 years.
last
Yeah.
2 years. And once they do that, then you can put them on the list for next year.
Right. And I know Amy's working on the fees and so forth. I want to kind of get away from the 15% of revenues,
Right.
because we don't really have a way to
Yeah, policing
verify
that.
Right.
what they've made. So we'll work with her on that.
Oh, so the consideration is to do flat fee for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
When does that?
Yeah.
Regardless of how many times that entity is using fields and product? Nothing's weighted that way?
Couple of things. If it's a one-time event, then it would, these fees would apply. Community school is in discussions with the administration to manage some recreational
Right.
programs, and if they take over scheduling of the fields, then I'm sure they will be coming to you looking for approvals for a different kind of fee structure. And actually, Greg emailed that we should have a meeting tomorrow, I think, to discuss that, so have more information for your next meeting.
Good.
I did, Rich, you sat in on the meeting with the soccer and the lacrosse, youth soccer and youth lacrosse. We split up the turf field between youth lacrosse and youth soccer. It's always a problem in the springtime. They want to get on the fields, and the fields aren't thawed yet. And so the turf field gives us a really good opportunity to get them out and playing without damaging the turf. So we had not had anybody asking about the turf field prior to that. So we split it up 3 weekdays for soccer and a weekend day, and 2 weekdays and a weekend day for lacrosse. And then I got an email actually from Sam Aloisi from the boys' high school lacrosse, and he would also like to have an opportunity to use the fields. But I believe the high school sports would substantially be before the youth sports.
Yes, they'll start just around the second week of March.
So I'm hoping that we can do a little blending so that people can get to use it. And I mean, from my standpoint, it's quite interesting how many people are interested in using the facility.
Right, yeah, that's the thing.
I think it's good that the responsibility and time efforts that it takes to make the schedules is going to be considered by the community schools to take that over, so you can access it and stuff like that.
The
Yeah.
school, in their new plans, are trying to build a field like that.
Oh, they are a turf field?
Right, they want to build, yeah.
Interesting.
So eventually they'll have their own up there.
And that was addressed at the meeting with the two groups of the school possibly needing some use. If they're having an away game playing on a turf field, it's
Right.
beneficial for the team to be able to play that way.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that there was a resolution on that issue, but
No, I think we just kind of broached the topic because Rich Brannigan was there, and obviously the boys' soccer plays on a lot of turf fields, and so it's nice to be able to have some experience on a turf field before you go play a competitive
Right.
game, and the
lacrosse
lacrosse
actually
as well.
prefers to play on grass.
They do.
They play most often. right?
Yeah.
It's the wintertime. We've got
Correct.
two guys who are playing over at Crossroads every weekend,
Right.
indoor arena,
Wow.
winter lacrosse.
Mhm.
And it's,
That's got to be a fast game.
yeah, it is. They
wouldn't want to be
beat
the way
each
of that
other
ball.
up. They beat each other up. They really do. They come back bruised.
Okay, if I could ask you a question, or the other commissioners, at what point should there be a more formal conversation with the AD, over at the high school or just the school system about what their potential or planned or wanted use might be in the field and how that may affect scheduling? I mean, should that be more formal, or should it be an as-needed basis? Because it's there was a moment of time last year where it was close to being disrupted, but everybody was able to accommodate, right?
I think it's on a first-come, first-served basis. When you come to the Park and Rec and get your schedule and see if you can fit it in. We don't really go out and seek those groups that might have a need for it and say, hey, don't snooze. Let us know if you need it. I don't think there's anything formal necessary for that.
We did have a time over the summer or late spring when the girls' field hockey, the school grounds crew would not cut the grass low enough for the girls' field hockey, so they came over and played on the turf, or practiced on the turf for a little while. And that was
And they
the
just came
coach.
over, though?
Oh, no, they called. They called and said that the grass is not sufficient at the high school, and we understand why they're doing it to try to get it to grow, and is there availability of time? So, we were able to
The
work
football
that out.
team used it for a couple of days too, they did, before they went off to play on the field.
And Paul Boucher, who is
Right.
our
One of the
rec,
coaches, right.
He's one of the coaches, so.
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt, but I don't want it to be that we're promising anybody something.
Agreed.
We are not offering it because we've got so much use for it anyway. And we don't actually do the scheduling. The scheduling's through the DPW. So I don't know why we really need to be involved other than we need to know what's going on.
Sorry.
So, it's working at the moment. I
We
imagine it will.
used to take that responsibility.
We still have a long way to go.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems to be working good out there.
Yeah, it's certainly a facility to be proud of. We did, as I'm sure Rich has mentioned, we didn't get the money for the field house, but that is something that we can bring forward, and it'll even make it better.
Right.
Keys to the gate. Who has access?
Paul Boucher has the keys, and what he does is when there's not supposed to be anybody in there, he puts a lock on that only he has the key to, and then it'll get changed when the season opens, and the coaches and so forth have that key, so that will make it accessible, rather than trying to collect keys, and he just switches them.
That way you haven't got people out there using it out of season.
Right, and messing up the turf
Right.
when we need to get it growing. As an aside, Paul has the no, it's not a license, it's a certification for the fertilizer, and Jeff Carlson is running the fertilizer class again on St. Patrick's Day. So he'll be taking that again, and so we are conforming with that, which I think is great. Well, thank you.
Great.
All sounds
Thank you,
wonderful.
Carol.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much for
Sure.
coming out.
Thanks.
Oh, the playground people, they take the old one away, or we have additional old units away, or we take it right to the dump?
We are going to dispose of it. It's, the children is pressure treated, so that has to be handled separately. And the one at the school, that's wood as well. So we'll have to we'll probably go in with the loader and just pull everything up. And they need a level surface, so after we get everything out, anything that's in concrete, that'll have to come out. We'll have to level it out. I'm hoping we're not going to have to put down any additional material, but we do have some.
Oh, any of the pots to it like that, the swings and like that, people could use in the backyard if
Oh, I'm
not
sure
not
that
the
we
wood,
can-
like the wood I know you want to cut
Right.
and
Yeah.
take care of that. But some of the pots there,
Mm,
if anybody wanted them,
yeah. We could put them out at the dome.
Take a minute.
put it out, take it or leave it, see if anybody wants them.
Perfect.
Right,
That's great. We will do that.
because a lot of people, build their own playgrounds in the backyard.
Yeah, it'd be great to have that kind of, access to that kind of equipment for your backyard.
Right.
Take it or leave it is.
It's quite a handyman project. All right. David, let's talk about this 100th anniversary.
Yes, well, you were away last month. I had briefly mentioned to the rest of the commissioners that we were doing some research on Children's Beach and Jetty's Beach and discovered that the town took ownership of Children's Beach as of February 8th, 1915. Based upon, I believe it was a ruling by the state and then the town meeting in the fall of 1914 set up the takeover. And as a result of that, we at Visitor Services, since we now manage Children's Beach, we're hoping to do a little get-together sometime late July, early August with the community at the beach to, do some sort of little celebration of the 100th anniversary and maybe serve ice cream and other goodies out there at Children's Beach, and just have music and other activities. So basically, this is still a work in progress, and that I will be updating you guys as we go along.
Sounds like we could have alcohol.
I'm just here thinking about the same thing I was thinking.
Champagne.
Moving
right along.
The tradition of Children's Beach, I think it would be very minuscule. But that's where we stand at this point. But we wanted to make sure that you guys are very much aware of this and that you're going to be in the loop. And of course, we will invite you guys along to make speeches and hopefully so.
We were doing this, maybe what we ought to do, it was January 8th that they took it over. Maybe we ought to do it on July 8th. Therefore, it's the 100 years plus 6 months.
I'm not sure if July 8th is going to work. I think the plan was sometime late July, early August, when everybody is here.
Right.
A lot of people are here at that time frame.
Right.
But I will let
I was just trying to tie it into the date, that's all.
Oh, I know, maybe August date.
Yeah.
Just an extra one.
That would, if you can tie it into the 8th, it would be good.
Good discovery, too.
Okay,
Very good
all right.
discovery. Okay, let's see. We have two more items here that are really just new business discussion topics. And the more relevant of the two, I'm going to go with number 5 in the draft survey, get Rich's final thoughts on that. I think we're kind of in a hold pattern.
Well, we are. I mean, we didn't, obviously it didn't go out. I'm having a blank. There's a possibility to have had it distributed
But it
by
had
the
to be
town.
reviewed by too many people.
That's correct. And, through the town census, excuse me. So it did not go out with the town census. There's still an we did make some revisions. I think there's an opportunity still to utilize this and collect information. The question just becomes, I think, we should review it a little bit tighter, as commissioners, and at that point in time, I think it's appropriate to try to readdress it and see whether the Inky Mirror may partner with us or there's another way for us to distribute and post it online. But I think probably since we missed that date, we obviously took our foot off the pedal, but I'd be more than happy to distribute it again and see if it's satisfactory to everybody here. We did try to simplify it quite a bit, and now that it is down to a couple pages instead of 5 or 6, which it was before, if there's an interest when we get together next meeting, I'd be more than happy to find out if we have any other partners or funding that would help distribute in the town, and then we can get the information and share it out to all affected parties. I know we did have interest, I don't want to speak for them, but in sharing some of the early documents, even with the land bank that has property and recreation as part of their mandate as well, they too would be interested to see how people are judging the fields, the quality. Are people aware of the space that's available? Are people aware of the different, I'll say, ownership groups? So they did express a level of interest, and that could be one of our partners. But I'll circulate it after today's meeting back to everybody electronically, and then we can talk about it next week.
The next item was the discussion of the history of the Park and Recreation Director and current status. I was talking to David about this, and I know we've talked about it a bit before. Jack, I wanted to ask you how we managed to get Jimmy in to begin with, to have a director of the commission. I did that
through. I originally, when I started some of the summer leagues and the softball league and like that, we were in Wisconsin years ago, and they wanted to get some lights, and they put an article in the warrant to get lights for the Wisconsin fields, and everybody was talking then, we need some park and recreation, and I took it on. I tried to get a park and recreation advisory committee, Took me several years to get it, and I got an advisory committee for a while. And it was hard to get anything done, though, because you couldn't work, the DPW wouldn't really do anything we asked them to do. So who were we advising? We had the tennis courts that we took over, and it was just advisory. So then I said, okay, the heck with this, I'm going to put an article in the warrant to start a Park and Recreation Commission. And doing that, put an article in the warrant, and what I did was file the bill in the legislature to take it out of the DPW and to make a Park and Recreation Commission on Nantucket. And you had a choice of making appointed or elected. So I chose appointed, and so we appointed through the Board of Selectmen. And then I put in for a budget for the town meeting. And I got it approved for like 25 years. But then all of a sudden there was this blue ribbon committee that got put out there to decide they were going to make some cuts for Nantucket. And Park and Rec was chosen as a cut.
The Blue Ribbon Committee being
Several finance people within the town, people on the finance committee and stuff like that. They held meetings for about 6 months or so, looking at the whole town government as to the operation and whatnot, and they chose to get rid of Park and Rec and human services and places, things like that. And that's how we get cut.
They had a legal basis to do that?
They had a legal basis because they were appointed by the Board of Selectmen, the committee was.
Okay.
And then they came back with a report, and then Libby picked up on the report and did the work. That's how we lost our budget. At the end, the last few years with our budget, we weren't doing it. We always made up our own budget every year and had no problem going through the finance committee and everything else. But the last few years, it was done through town administration.
And
Jimmy didn't really make up the budget. Town administration.
Yeah, he just managed everything.
Right.
That now the DPW is.
Now it's at the DPW, right.
So we really aren't in a position to need a director.
Right, yeah, but we have no money to pay a director.
We don't have any money. We don't have a budget.
Right, we don't have a budget.
Everything's been taken away, and it would make no sense to try to requisition or put anything in for money, because we're not incurring any of the expenses.
Right.
Can I just add to that? My department has been given 4 line items that are related to Park and Rec, and they amount to about $17,000. And this one of the line items, there are 3 of them. They're basically 4th of July, seasonal account. One is a seasonal account, I guess, for general children's beach stuff, and another is for the concerts at the beach,
right.
the Sunday, Tuesday concerts. And then there's a 4th one that is really we don't have anything to do with, and it's to do with Halloween.
Halloween
So
happening,
if
yeah.
you're wondering where all this money has gone to, they folded it into our budget, but we only use 3 of the 4 line items, but all 4 line items are there.
Is anybody doing that Halloween dance anymore?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think it's been done the last. Well, I don't know if it's been done this year or not. I don't think it did.
Dance?
But a year ago, the one before it was done. The year before,
Yeah.
the dance
Wasn't
went
done
on, but
last
we
year.
didn't. But we didn't do it.
The school administration nixed it
Right.
this past year. The year before, there was some complaints about something about it. I didn't go to that one as a chaperone.
Right.
But the year before that one I went, and I was amazed at the way the kids danced.
I've been a chaperone there. I stopped going when my kids really got into high school
Right.
because I didn't think they wanted me there, and I had the exact same feeling you did, Keith. But that's just them. That's not the.
Right.
That's our opinion of what's going on.
But we had
in the generation.
at the last dance that we did, we had a lot of complaints from the police about the drinking that was going on there. If there was that much drinking going on there, why didn't they tell us? Why didn't they shut it down at the time? And that was my question at the time. But
And there was-
they waited till after it was over with, and say, look, we can't do this anymore.
The police are walking around inside.
Right,
It's two guys,
Yeah.
male and female, checking bathrooms and things like
right,
that.
they did a good job.
Outside the door as well, and cruisers, because cruisers are out going up and down the road anyway, because people are out and about downtown. So it's not a question of us taking their time. And if there were any problems, they didn't happen on site.
No,
And if they did, they were handled on
but
site.
that's, to me, that's the reason I was told that we lost it, is because of the drinking that we allowed to go on.
That we allowed to.
Well, we didn't do anything about it. Well, the police should have done something about it too. They should have told us. Then we could have done something about it.
If you weren't sitting in that back room, you should have been out there on the dance hall. 'Cause I
I
know where
would-
you like to sit when the party was going on.
Every few minutes, I'd take a walk out there, just so I could see what was going on.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, what do we do with that historical view?
Well, it's really just a discussion topic to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And that we know that as a commission, we still have the ability and the pleasure of talking to people and giving permission from
And
this side of the table.
that's about it. That's
And
about all we
That's about
have.
it. We don't have expenses anymore.
No.
We don't have maintenance, we don't
No.
have scheduling, we don't have personnel.
And
What we do have is policy making, to
Right.
say, yeah, if it's small and you sample it with food, but no big bottles of alcohol on children's beach because it's not proper policy. And that's what I think our responsibility is. And that's pretty much all what we do right now. And on my notes, I had to ask about, well, shouldn't we get another commissioner on this board? And, which is the same thing, like how do we sell them on the idea that they're gonna be a useful volunteer?
right.
And how would you sell us to a new commissioner that
It's hard to
that they
bring
would
somebody
be
new on.
useful? I've been on the board for 3 years now, and my interest is waning.
Yeah. Or it is for all of us.
And Keith, I guess I'd question whether there is any policy making. I mean, I think there's influence, and it does provide a voice. I'm not sure if technically we certainly could suggest that.
We're policy advisory to the board.
Fair. Fair.
But our scope is no longer with anything but policy.
But by us being here, I think just us being here every month, it's gotten better. The DPW is doing a better job at it than they did when they started. Everybody's doing a better job. Now the visitor services has parts of it. You know, at first they didn't want anything to do with it, but they've taken on a little. So everybody's taken on this little bit, and it's helped a lot. It's
And I
much
think-
better than it was when we first started.
I think they've all come back at different times and said, how did you do this?
Right. Yeah.
And what worked for you? And we've been able to impart that historical knowledge, and then each group has taken possession of it and added their own.
It's getting
touch.
better.
Yeah.
And as long as it gets better, I like it. It's better than what I had before I started it. We had nothing
That's right.
before. There was nobody overseeing any of the leagues or any of that stuff before. And
I think community school would be a great
yeah,
entity in the summertime.
that's what they're trying to do, is get the community school to take it over. The
Yeah.
community school is going to grow more.
It's full-time employees. They can work in the summertime.
The community school is going to move over into the the old elementary school.
Yeah.
They're going to have a bigger place to operate out of.
I think that covers everything for this evening. Jonathan?
How about a new commissioner? How do we get one of them?
But I think you would just ask Libby to
Post it.
advertise and post it again.
We saw today's paper, I guess everybody's seen the front page, and there are vacancies in multiple.
Oh yeah, on as far as election goes, yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get involved.
So maybe DPW can put catering into that
Maybe
extra
Park
line.
Recreation and Shellfish Commission.
Who's
Yeah,
What's that?
our meeting's catered.
Park recreation and shellfish.
Why don't we switch over to Shab?
They have two people they need to place as well. I think it's that simple. Right? Don't you simply ask Libby and Erica will post it that there's an opening?
Yes.
And they'll have a new deadline?
Yeah.
David, would you mind?
I'm sorry, what?
Would you mind sending an email to Erica and Libby
Okay.
to post over
Opening.
consecutive weeks a open seat on the Park and Recreation Commission?
I think I've got a guy in Tom Nevis that used to be a Park and Rec director that's interested in
Ooh,
coming on.
every time I see Jimmy, he laughs at me, but I asked him. So we put the post office in the library, the same spot each time.
There's something mysterious going on there. It's a love-hate thing for him. It really
He
is.
smirks and smiles and says, I'm collecting my retirement.
Exactly. It's done. All right, make a motion to adjourn for this evening. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all
Tiffany.
very
Thank you.
much.
Tiffany.
Very good. It's tea for Turb. This was,
This is
from my mother.
No, Tiffany.
Thank you for putting the paperwork together.
Sorry, Jim,
I noticed that.
I never knew it was a kid. It was a 50. I always thought it was Pete.
Amy had asked me to add the triathlon.
It's all good.
So,
It's better than any of us could have done.
okay.
And for saving paper purposes, if you email it to me, you don't have to print it out again for me.
Okay,
Anything
I
you
just
think-
kind of do it as a habit, really. But I won't bring your stuff anymore then.
So is
No,
there
you don't need to ask that.
on the island? Maybe
Unless there's something that
Yeah.
just came up in that email. Usually it's like
Well,
final
yeah.
day of the meeting.
That's from an organizational standpoint. Now that some pieces are being spread around a little bit. How do you? And maybe this is just not how